let's talk about your classroom, your students.
Okay, well this year we have a really diverse classroom. I have 2 specific student needs. One of the students in our class has an IEP, which I don't know if you've learned.
Individualized
Education plan, good, for special ed, and he has a one-on-one parapro. And that's not a very common thing in this with the management of the class.
Okay,
But the student just has struggles with self-control, and he's got some ADHD concerns. He sees social work, and he sees occupational therapy services and resource room therapy services. Once you get to know him, it will all make sense about why he has a one-on-one parapro. But she's in here, and then she kind of manages his schedule. He's out of the room a lot, so she makes sure he goes out of the room when he needs to. And if he's starting to act in a behavioral, because that's the reason he needs a parapro, he has some behavioral needs. So whenever he does, she knows, do I need to remove him from the room? Do I need to give him different choices to get him through, this tough time? So, where you can see his true
And you have to design do you have to make some changes for him?
He does have some accommodations. His need is not necessarily academic, it's more behavioral. So he does have some gaps because in kindergarten his behavioral needs were so big that he missed a lot of kindergarten. He was out of the classroom a lot. So he missed learning his sounds, he missed learning and read, not very fluently. So the accommodations we make for him are mostly reading aloud, and however in math he has no accommodations. He does well in math, but that makes sense?
Right, absolutely.
So he's one student, and then I have another student who just last week was diagnosed with diabetes, type 1 diabetes.
Oh, okay.
And so he is just trying to figure out his insulin, and they're trying to figure out what his target number is. Sometimes he's high, sometimes he's low, but he has a lot of specific needs about snacks and when he gets his sugar checked and bathrooming situations because he needs to be drinking more water, which means more bathroom breaks. And he doesn't have anybody specific with him, but anyone who's in the room is aware of his situation. So, I'll definitely share with you the signs of when he's low or high with his sugar, but everything that is happening with the insulin is done in the office. We're good? Okay. So the student that we're in the process of being tested has to be documented any accommodations we're making for the first 6 weeks, but it actually works into 8 weeks because the way that the meeting falls. And so I'm writing down any accommodations I'm making for him. He really cannot read. And so a lot of my accommodations are picture cues and reading aloud and alternate forms of assessment because he can't read an assessment and answer the questions. So I might give it to him in picture boxes. And so that student, I will also point out to you once you're in the classroom, he needs a lot of read aloud throughout the day. He hopefully will be getting services from special ed, but we're not to that point yet where he's been certified. Yeah. Oh, that's just the major ones. Yeah. So we definitely have various levels. We've got some good readers. We've got some not so good readers, but we do a lot of workshop and small group activities that are leveled. So that'll be an area where you'll definitely have like a group that you're working with, and I might be working with the higher level group and you're working with the lower level group, and those groups will rotate among us. And they're in about, the levels range about 100 points on the NWEA test. One student scored a 140 and another student scored a 222. So there's like 80 points between the two of those students. That's a span of 6 grade levels,
Oh, yes,
So we're definitely trying to meet those needs, but you have to be able to have a middle ground.
Right,
So
makes sense.
once you see the kids and you kind of get to figure out their levels, you'll be able to see, okay, this group of kids needs this type of instruction. Yeah.
Right. Especially because you said you have a very diverse class this year.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
So
We have a lot of girls, so that's good. That always keeps things calmer when there's more
Yeah.
girls. But I think we have 16 and 13. So 16 girls, 13 boys. So it just,
teaching.
okay, so we teach all morning from 8 to noon. We do ELA curriculum, and we use Reading Street. It's a type of company. It's like a Basel reader. And I actually plan ELA. So there's 3 teachers on a team, each grade level. One teacher plans ELA, one teacher plans math, and one teacher plans science or social studies because they alternate. This is only for kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. Once they get higher up,
They have
their
the
content
rotations.
areas, So for this wing of students, I plan ELA, which is our whole morning, from the time they get here until lunch. And then after lunch, we have math for an hour, and then after math, we have social studies or science for about 45 minutes, and then we go to special. So in the morning, we're doing ELA, and within the about 4 hours, we definitely take a break for snack and recess. I mean, we're not content the whole time. But in that 4 hours, we're doing about 2 small group times. So we're doing a small group time before recess, a 30-minute, where the kids are in differentiated activities. And then after recess, we do another 30-minute one where it's more different. So sort of like centers, but they're leveled groups.
Okay.
And then other than those, we have whole group instruction where I'm teaching or the kids are doing partner group work things. Or, I mean, we try to get the kids to do as much as they can, but at this level, there's still a lot of whole group instruction because they're not as independent as older kids.
They're younger ones.
So for ELA, we follow, and math, we follow Common Core objectives. And then NHA has some, not separate standards, but they have separate, I think that's the word to use. They have separate requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes they'll ask that we do these tests that aren't necessarily Common Core tests, but we have to do them and report them to NHA so they can kind of track where students are across the company, because we have like over 80 schools in NHA schools. So that's something that's just, it's usually just a test that they take, a written form of a test. But we always follow the Common Core. So while you're here, we're going to be doing, I mean, every day I think we hit 5 or 6 objectives, because we have a phonics objective, we have a grammar objective, we have a comprehension skill, we have a writing skill, we have a speaking and listening skill. So at least 5 objectives are being hit every morning. And then maybe 1 for math. And for science and social studies, we use the Michigan GLICs.
Okay.
So, which Michigan GLICs are Common Core essentially, because they're just not nationwide, but they're what all Michigan schools are using.
Okay.
And those are broken down into units. So we might teach, while you're here, we're going to be teaching social studies, so we're going to be teaching about the Civil War. And so we'll teach a unit, and that unit might be 2 weeks long, but it's covering 2 objectives. But we're
Okay.
teaching that across 10 days, is what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And then we won't be doing science because we do one or the other, science or social
So
studies.
it's alternate?
Alternate. Sometimes it alternates, sometimes it might be social studies back to back and then a science, because
Okay.
science are such big units that sometimes it doesn't fit in the schedule to
Like
do
you
it that
said,
way.
right.
But over the 12 weeks that you're here, we're definitely going to be doing a balance and motion unit for science, and that's a big unit.
Mhm.
We talk about simple machines, we talk about like the different, not necessarily Newton's laws, but the different ways that you use motion.
Mhm.
And then we hit energy, and then we also talk about matter and the states of matter and mixing things, like mixing solids with liquids and what kind of effects do you get. So those are the science things we'll hit. And then we're also going to be covering measurement. So using rulers, centimeters and inches, and measuring like weights of things, like grams and milligrams.
Okay.
So those are like some of the things we'll do between now and February. But we could schedule times on those Monday, Wednesday, or Fridays once a week to sit down and talk about some things that maybe if you taught a small group during math that day, we could talk about what I observed while you were doing that,
Right.
or overheard, and kind of where it hits on the rubric.
Well, thank you. I think that sums it up.
Okay,
Thank you so
great.
much. I appreciate it. I know we have a busy schedule.
Oh, it's never not busy, so it just fits right in.